You're nothing but a diversion, a fortune hunter executing a calculated scheme, and believe me, when I'm finished, he'll see straight through your facade." Judith's statement was frigid as ice, her demeanor serene as though she were making small talk about the climate. There I sat, paralyzed, clutching my cup's handle with such force, I feared it would shatter. I wished to respond, to stand up for myself, yet I remained silent. During those days, I believed that maintaining courtesy and grace would eventually earn her approval. How mistaken I was. I go by Sarah Miller, 26 years of age, and I was betrothed to Ryan, the most remarkable man I had ever encountered. Ryan originated from affluence, a universe I never envisioned joining. His family possessed an extensive real estate dynasty, and he was destined to inherit it eventually. Yet none of that held importance for me. I was raised in a modest but caring home, laboring diligently as a kindergarten instructor to forge my own path. Ryan cherished me for my true self, not my possessions, and for the first time in my existence, I felt acknowledged and appreciated. However, his mother Judith loathed me from the beginning. She believed I was solely pursuing the family fortune, and regardless of how gentle or courteous I attempted to be, she made it evident that she would never welcome me. Judith's contempt wasn't concealed. It permeated every encounter we shared. She would deliver cutting remarks about my attire, about how I appeared pleasant yet unrefined, or about how Ryan required someone capable of managing the demands of their society. I attempted to dismiss it, convincing myself it was merely her method of evaluating me, but internally it stung. Ryan, naturally, didn't witness this aspect of her. In his presence, she was delightful and affectionate, the ideal mother. She refrained from openly criticizing me when he was nearby, but I sensed her frigid stares and detected her patronizing tone. When I attempted to discuss it with Ryan, he would dismiss it, saying things like, "She simply needs time, Sarah. She's protective of me. That's all." I wanted to trust him, so I remained quiet. Yet circumstances began deteriorating as Ryan and I approached setting our wedding date. Judith's remarks became more cutting, and her subtle jabs transformed into direct accusations. One evening while Ryan was away, she trapped me in the corridor. "You're not deceiving anyone, you understand," she said, her voice quiet but resolute. "Ryan might be too naive to recognize it, but I know your category. Impoverished girl attaches herself to the first wealthy man who gives her attention. Textbook." I stood there, astounded, uncertain how to reply. I wasn't pursuing Ryan's wealth, and I had done nothing to imply otherwise. But Judith wasn't concerned with the facts. She had already formed her opinion about me. Initially, I convinced myself I could tolerate it. Ryan and I were in love, and that was what mattered. But the persistent strain, the murmured insults, and the way she orchestrated situations to portray me as the villain began to exhaust me. Still, I never imagined she would go to the extremes she ultimately reached. One evening, following another stressful confrontation with Judith, I contacted my closest friend Erica. She had always been my confidant during difficult times, and I desperately needed someone to express my frustrations to. "I'm at a loss, Erica," I said, pacing around my small apartment. "Judith treats me like I'm some sort of felon for caring about Ryan. It's as if she's anticipating my failure, so she can declare I warned you." Erica sighed from the other end. "That woman has problems, Sarah. You've done nothing incorrect. If anything, you've gone above and beyond to be pleasant to her. It's not your responsibility that she's trapped in her elite social circle." I collapsed onto the sofa, massaging my forehead. "It's not merely the insults. She tells Ryan things about me as well, false things. And I'm unsure how much longer I can endure it. I care for him, but it feels like I'm fighting an unwinnable battle." "Have you shared everything with Ryan?" Erica inquired. I paused. "Not entirely. I mean, I've brought it up occasionally, but he brushes it aside. He doesn't see her behavior when he's absent." Erica's tone softened. "Sarah, you must tell him. He loves you. He has the right to know what she's doing." "I understand," I said quietly, "but what if it only worsens things?" The following days weren't any simpler. I attempted to gather the bravery to have an honest conversation with Ryan about his mother, but each time I raised the topic, I hesitated. He was already managing so much: work, wedding preparations, and his personal struggles with sobriety. The last thing I desired was to add to his burden. One night, I met Erica at our regular cafe, hoping she would provide the insight I needed. "Do you believe I'm being overly suspicious?" I asked, stirring my tea, the anxiety in my chest threatening to overflow. "Judith has been more hostile recently. It's as though she's building toward something, but I can't determine what." Erica looked up from her phone, her response delayed. "I'm not sure, Sarah. Perhaps you're simply overanalyzing it. She's his mother. Mothers can be challenging sometimes." I frowned, taken aback by her tone. Erica had always been the first to defend me regarding Judith. "You truly think I'm overanalyzing it?" She shrugged, taking a sip of her latte. "I mean, it's not as if she's done anything significant. Maybe she's just protective, like Ryan suggests." Her words felt wrong, as if she was dismissing me. At the time, I didn't dwell on it, thinking she was simply distracted or having an off day. But later, I would realize this was the moment when everything began to fall apart. Over the following weeks, Erica became progressively distant. It wasn't just the dismissive comments. She started avoiding my calls, replying to texts hours later or not at all. When we did speak, she seemed preoccupied, barely paying attention to what I was saying. I tried not to take it personally at first. Everyone has their own issues, right? But deep down, it troubled me. Erica had always been my support, the one person I could rely on to have my back. Now, when I needed her most, she felt like a stranger. Judith, on the other hand, seemed to detect my vulnerability. She intensified her charm around Ryan, constantly sowing seeds of doubt about me. I overheard her once telling him, "You deserve someone who comprehends our world, Ryan. Someone who will elevate you, not hinder you." The walls felt like they were closing in, and for the first time, I began to feel truly isolated. One afternoon, Ryan mentioned that his mother wanted us to visit for tea. "She says she wants to make an effort," he told me, his tone hopeful. "Maybe she's finally warming up to you." I didn't believe it for an instant, but for Ryan's sake, I agreed to go. If there was even the slightest possibility that Judith was willing to change, I wanted to give her the chance. When we arrived at her house, I was already tense. Judith greeted us with her usual excessively polite smile, but the moment I entered the living room, my stomach plummeted. Erica was sitting on the couch, sipping tea as if she belonged there. "Sarah?" Erica said, feigning surprise, though her eyes nervously darted to Judith. What a coincidence. I was just catching up with Judith. I froze, glancing at Ryan, who appeared confused but didn't seem to think anything of it. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice tense. Judith's smile broadened. "Oh, I thought it would be pleasant for all of us to sit together. Your good friend Erica has been very helpful recently." The room suddenly felt too confined, the air too dense. I sat down rigidly, every instinct screaming that something was amiss. I couldn't help myself. "I didn't realize you two were acquainted," I said, my voice tinged with confusion as I looked between Judith and Erica. Judith raised an eyebrow, her expression deliberately nonchalant. "Oh, we've encountered each other here and there," she said smoothly, reaching for her tea. "Erica has been such a sweetheart. It's always pleasant to have someone who genuinely cares about Ryan." My stomach churned at her words. I turned to Erica, searching her face for some kind of explanation, but she wouldn't meet my gaze. Instead, she gave a half-hearted shrug and muttered, "Yeah, it just sort of happened. Judith's been really supportive." Supportive of what? I thought. The entire situation felt off, but Ryan didn't seem to notice. He simply leaned back in his chair, sipping his tea, oblivious to the tension brewing right before him. Judith set her teacup down with a delicate clink and leaned back, her eyes flicking toward Erica. "Well," she said, her tone light but loaded, "since we're all here, I think it's time to address something important." She paused, looking at Erica. "Erica, dear, why don't you tell Ryan what you shared with me?" My heart sank, a cold wave of panic washing over me. What are you discussing? I asked, looking between them. Erica hesitated, her hands fidgeting with her cup. She finally glanced at Ryan, her expression grave. Ryan, I didn't want to say anything, but I can't keep this to myself anymore. She paused for effect, glancing at Judith, who nodded encouragingly. I saw Sarah with another man. The room fell silent except for the sound of my heartbeat pounding in my ears. What? I said, my voice shaking. Erica, what are you talking about? That's not true. Ryan's face went pale as he turned to me, hurt and confusion etched into his features. Sarah, he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. Erica took a deep breath, avoiding my gaze, and continued. It was a few weeks ago, she said, her voice trembling as if this was difficult for her. I was downtown getting coffee after work and I saw Sarah with this guy. They were at some restaurant, laughing, holding hands, and kissing. It was obvious, Ryan. I didn't want to believe it at first, but I couldn't ignore what I witnessed. I shook my head, my chest tightening so much I could barely breathe. Erica, stop. That never occurred. You're lying. Why are you doing this? She finally met my eyes, and for a second, I thought I saw something there, guilt, hesitation, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. I'm not lying, Sarah. I didn't want to say anything, but I couldn't just let Ryan continue living a lie. A lie, I repeated, my voice breaking as tears streamed down my face. You're supposed to be my best friend. Why are you doing this? I've never cheated on Ryan, never. You know me. Ryan stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. His hands were shaking as he turned to Erica. You're certain about this? He asked, his voice tight with barely contained emotion. I'm certain, Erica said, her tone soft but resolute. I saw it with my own eyes. I'm sorry, Ryan. I thought you deserved to know. I couldn't stop crying. I felt trapped, like the walls were closing in around me. Ryan, please. I begged, reaching for his hand. You have to believe me. I don't know why she's saying this, but it's not true. I love you. I've never done anything like that. He pulled his hand back, his eyes filled with anger and hurt. How could you do this, Sarah? He shouted. How could you lie to me after everything we've been through? I didn't. I started, but he cut me off. Get out of here, he said, his voice trembling with rage. I can't even look at you right now. I froze, my legs weak and my heart shattered. I looked at Erica one last time, hoping for some sign that she'd break and tell the truth, but she just avoided my eyes, staring down at her cup. Without another word, I grabbed my bag and stumbled out of the house, tears blurring my vision. I couldn't understand what had just happened or why Erica would betray me like that. All I knew was that my world had just crumbled. The next few days were a blur of tears and unanswered calls. I tried everything, texting, calling, even showing up at Ryan's apartment, but he wouldn't answer. The few times I knocked on his door, I could hear movement inside, but he never came to open it. Each attempt left me more broken than the last. I'd stand outside his building, my hands trembling as I tried to compose yet another message, hoping this one would somehow get through to him. Ryan, please just let me explain. You know me. You know I would never do this to you. But each text went unread, the little delivered, Mark mocking me every time. I tried Erica too, desperate for some kind of explanation. She ignored every call, and when I sent her a long message asking why she lied, I got nothing but silence. The betrayal from my best friend hurt almost as much as losing Ryan. I couldn't wrap my head around it. We'd been through everything together. Why would she do this to me? I barely slept, replaying that moment in Judith's house over and over in my head. I kept thinking about the look on Ryan's face, the hurt, the anger, the betrayal. It haunted me. I felt like my heart had been ripped out, and there was nothing I could do to fix it. As much as I was hurting, I couldn't stop thinking about Ryan. He wasn't just angry. He was devastated, betrayed by the same lie that had torn my world apart. It hit me then that he wasn't just another victim of Judith's manipulation. In a way, he was the target. Her actions had shattered him just as much as they'd shattered me, and in some ways, even more. I tried reaching out to Ryan again, determined to get through to him this time, but it was useless. Every call went straight to voicemail, and every message remained unread. I even went to his apartment again, but when I knocked, there was no response. The silence was unbearable. Meanwhile, the updates from Alex and others grew more alarming. Ryan wasn't just missing work. He was skipping his recovery meetings, avoiding his friends, and spending time in the worst parts of town. The person they described wasn't the Ryan I knew. He was slipping further and further away, and I felt powerless to stop it. It was late one evening when I heard a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I hesitated before opening it. When I did, I was stunned to see Judith standing there. She looked nothing like the composed, icy woman I was used to. Her hair was a mess, her face pale, and her eyes red like she'd been crying for hours. "Sarah," she said, her voice trembling, "please, I need your help." I stared at her, barely believing what I was seeing. "Judith," I said, my tone sharp. "Why are you here?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, wringing her hands like she was trying to hold herself together. "It's Ryan," she finally said, her voice cracking. He's falling apart. He's using again, and I don't know what to do." I folded my arms, the bitterness rising in my chest. "What do you want me to do about it, Judith? You made it pretty clear what you think of me." Her eyes filled with fresh tears, and she sank into the nearest chair. "I was wrong," she whispered. "About everything. I thought I was protecting him, but all I've done is destroy him. And you." Judith's hands trembled as she clasped them tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Sarah," she began, her voice breaking, "I've made a terrible mistake. I thought I was doing the right thing for Ryan, but I've only hurt him and you. I've hurt you both so much." I stayed silent, watching her unravel. The composed, cold woman I'd known was gone, replaced by someone desperate and broken. "I lied," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "About everything. The affair, Erica, it was all me. I made it up." She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. "I wanted to end your relationship. I thought you weren't good enough for Ryan. I thought you were going to ruin his life." I felt my chest tighten as the weight of her words hit me. "You lied?" I said, my voice shaking. "You paid Erica to say those things?" Judith nodded, her sobs growing louder. "Yes. I paid her $100,000 to tell Ryan you were cheating. I thought if he believed it, he'd end things with you and he'd find someone I approved of." Her voice cracked as she continued, "But I was wrong, Sarah. So wrong. You've been nothing but good for him, and I was too blind to see it." I shook my head, anger bubbling to the surface. "You didn't just hurt me, Judith. You destroyed him. Do you see what he's become because of you? He's back on drugs, he's lost, and he's hurting because of the lies you told." Judith's sobs turned into full-on weeping as she buried her face in her hands. "I know," she choked out. "I know, and I can't undo what I've done. But Sarah, please help him. He listens to you. He loves you. You're the only one who can save him." I stared at her, torn between my anger and my lingering love for Ryan. She looked up at me again, her tear-streaked face filled with regret. "I'll do anything, Sarah. I'll tell him the truth. I'll admit everything. Just please don't give up on him. He needs you." I stood there, frozen, unable to process what I was hearing. Judith, the woman who had spent months tearing me down, lying about me and ruining my life, was now sitting in my living room, begging me for help. Her words echoed in my head, but it was like my brain refused to fully comprehend them. Judith looked up at me, her face streaked with tears, and reached out as if to grab hold of the air between us. "Sarah, please," she whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of her desperation. "He only talks about you. Even in his worst moments, when he's completely lost, it's you he calls for." My heart ached hearing that, but I stayed silent, my mind racing. Judith seemed to sense my hesitation, and she leaned forward, her voice growing more frantic. "You're the reason he stayed clean, Sarah. You gave him hope, something to live for. Without you, he's spiraling. Please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything to make this right." I took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm of emotions swirling inside me. Judith's words hung in the air, and as much as I wanted to walk away from all of it, from her lies, from the heartbreak, I couldn't. Not when it came to Ryan. "I'll help," I said quietly, my voice shaking. Judith's tear-streaked face lit up with relief, but I held up a hand to stop her. "But I'm not doing this for you, Judith. I'm doing it for Ryan. I love him, and I always have. But what you did, it's unforgivable." "I know," she whispered, her voice breaking again. "I know, Sarah. And I'll do everything I can to make it right. I'll tell him the truth. I'll admit everything. Just please help me bring him back." I nodded, even though my heart felt like it was being ripped apart all over again. "I'll talk to him," I said firmly. "But this doesn't mean everything is fine. It's going to take a lot for him to heal, for both of us to heal." Judith wiped her face, nodding furiously. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely audible. "Thank you, Sarah." As she left, I felt a mix of dread and hope. I didn't know how Ryan would react to the truth, or if we could ever rebuild what we had. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let him fall any further. Not if I could help it. The next day, Judith picked me up, and the ride to Ryan's apartment was tense and silent. She gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white, and I could feel her anxiety radiating off her. I wasn't much better. I kept fidgeting with my hands, my stomach in knots as I thought about what was about to happen. When we arrived, Judith knocked on Ryan's door, her hand trembling slightly. For a moment, it felt like he wouldn't answer, but then the lock clicked and the door creaked open. Ryan stood there, his eyes hollow and red, his face pale. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him, and it broke my heart. His gaze flickered to me and then to Judith, hardening instantly. "What do you want?" he asked, his tone sharp, his body blocking the doorway as if to keep us out. "I'm tired of you and your games." Judith flinched, her breath catching. She hesitated, gripping the strap of her handbag like it was the only thing keeping her steady. "Ryan," she said softly, her voice cracking, that's exactly why I'm here." Ryan's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about?" Judith stepped forward, her voice trembling as she spoke. "I lied, Ryan, about Sarah cheating on you. I made it all up. I paid Erica to say those things. I thought I was protecting you, but I was wrong. So wrong." Ryan's face contorted in disbelief, his arms dropping to his sides. "You paid Erica?" he said, his voice rising with each word. "You lied about Sarah? Why the hell would you do that?" Judith sobbed, covering her face with her hands. "I was trying to protect you, Ryan. I thought she wasn't good enough for you. I didn't see what she meant to you, what you meant to each other. I see it now, and I regret everything I've done. Please, I'm begging you, forgive me." Ryan stepped back, shaking his head as if trying to make sense of what he'd just heard. His eyes darted to me, filled with guilt and pain. "Sarah, is this true?" he asked, his voice almost breaking. I nodded slowly, tears welling up in my eyes. "It's true, Ryan. I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen." Ryan stared at me for a long moment, his eyes searching mine, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I saw a flicker of the man I fell in love with. His lips quivered, and then, slowly, the corners of his mouth turned up into a small, shaky smile. "You were telling the truth," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You never lied to me. You never gave up on me." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "Never, Ryan. I never stopped loving you." Before I could say another word, he stepped forward and pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly like he was afraid I'd slip away again. His body trembled against mine, and I felt the weight of everything we'd been through in that moment. "I'm so sorry," he murmured, his lips brushing against my temple. "I should have believed you. I should have fought for you, for us." I pulled back just enough to look into his eyes, smiling through my tears. "It's okay," I said softly. We're here now. And then, for the first time in what felt like an eternity, he kissed me tenderly, as if savoring the moment. The pain, the betrayal, and the heartache melted away, replaced by the warmth of knowing we were finally back where we belonged, together. Looking back, I still feel the weight of everything we went through. The pain, the betrayal, and the lies. They left scars that won't heal overnight. I spent so many sleepless nights questioning myself, wondering how people I trusted could hurt me like that. Even now, it's hard to think about Erica. She was my best friend, someone I confided in for years, and she sold me out for money. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her. As for Judith, it's complicated. She's made an effort to make things right, and I can see the genuine regret in her actions now. She's softer with me, more respectful, and I think she's finally realized how much Ryan and I mean to each other. But trust, that's going to take time. I don't hate her anymore. I can't. What she did was awful, but in the end, she came to me, admitted her lies, and helped Ryan and me find our way back to each other. Ryan, he's my heart. Seeing him smile again, watching him rebuild himself, it's everything I could have hoped for. He's working on his recovery with a renewed determination, and I'm right there by his side every step of the way. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing for sure. We're stronger now. What we've been through has only deepened our love and commitment. If this experience has taught me anything, it's that love isn't always easy. It's messy, painful, and at times it feels impossible. But when it's real, when it's worth fighting for, it has the power to heal even the deepest wounds. For Ryan and me, this is just the beginning of the life we're building together. And for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful. Hey there! Did you enjoy the story? If you did, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us tremendously and ensures you won't miss out on more excellent stories we share here. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.